The Irish Rally Podcast is brought to you in association with Tech and Tools, SVS Productions, PFT Travel, Rally Connection and Murray Motorsport. Now, we're down here in what I would call a definite rallying stronghold, certainly in the county of Carlow anyway, and it is in Ballin. And we're in the home of this man here beside me, Mr. Ken Blanche. Ken, thanks a million for inviting me down here for a little chat. How's things with yourself?
Very good, Kevin. You're very welcome. Thank you very much. Honoured to be asked. I'm delighted. A little bit nervous, but yeah, delighted. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well, sure, look, it won't be any more or less nerve-wracking than maybe sitting in beside some of the buckos that you sat in beside. Yeah. Down through the years, but Ken, I suppose, you know, your story is quite a remarkable one, I must say. You got a heart attack last year, sometime around September time.
And in the middle of September, I had 2 heart attacks in the one day, yeah.
Yeah, and now you're back competing again.
Yes. Mad or just out to enjoy myself. Kind of saw the other side of the fence last year, so hit a milestone there in January. I was 50, so I just said, right, my time wasn't up yet, so enjoy myself, go back and rallying, and yeah, just enjoy life, have the crack.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's crazy the way things kind of work out, because, you know, we might as well tell our viewers and listeners here now, obviously there's been a horrendous tragedy over the past couple of weeks, and when we initially planned to sit down and do this interview, it was the 13th of April 2023, which is sadly a date that nobody's going to forget anytime soon in terms of Irish rallying, and we'll pass on our sympathies once more to the Breen family. But I will never ever forget around 2:10 when you gave me that phone call, and it was just one of those horrendous moments and a numbing sort of thing, Ken, and it's just one of those things, I suppose, where the Irish Rally family is so small that a number of people have said this actually, and they've put it very well. When you didn't know Craig Breen that well, you felt like you knew him inside out, because he left everything so open to everyone that you felt like you just knew the man. Yeah. And the last couple of weeks have just been horrendous, to put it simply, haven't they?
Rallying in Ireland has lost. There's an emptiness there that can never be filled. There's an emptiness, a darkness there. Like anybody, like he had so many connections with so many people. A lot of people, like I saw him around at rallies. I never actually met him myself, but he would have been at rallies that I was competing in recently. But just beyond comprehension, he's passing. And the amount of love that people had for him, respect, admiration, all the good things that you would expect or count on, and just a huge shock beyond comprehension. The shock and the loss, the grief, that everybody, you didn't have to know him to be shocked with the news. Anybody in world motorsport, Irish motorsport, his name was just synonymous. Shock, yeah, absolutely.
I suppose the biggest and best ambassador the sport has ever had, and that attachment to home was something that never left him. And yeah, it's just an awful time, to be honest with you. But you know, you look at, I suppose, even the weekend just gone, and you see Eamon Kelly, and the first thing he does is dedicate the win to Breen, like. And my point is the inspiration that he's provided already to so many, the platform, the route that he has mapped out to show that guys can get there, and he has opened the gateway
for a lot of guys, like, as far as I'm concerned, there are some serious drivers and navigators in Ireland at the minute. Like, fantastic talent, both men and women. And, like, any aspiring junior or even the likes of myself or whatever, anybody, like, he opened the gateway for guys to get onto the international scene. And it's huge, and I hope it stays open forever.
I think a lot of modern admiration as well for, I suppose, his personality in terms of he just let it all out there. He was in touch with the emotions, and it's not something that I suppose maybe rally people and men, macho kind of a type of thing that maybe we don't do it enough, to be quite honest. But to see the stage end stuff and the tears, the laughter, he just put it all out there, and I thought that was inspirational as well. Like, you know what I mean?
And that's why I think he touched so many people's hearts, because he spoke what was on his mind. Like the one day when, I don't know what rally it was where he had won, I don't know, I think it was Finland or something, and he dedicated his win to his ex-navigator who had sadly passed away as well. And you saw his tears and his emotions that day, and that was just
the first podium,
true character of the man, and like that was his true colours right there.
Yeah, and I suppose, you know, that day down in KCLR when we made the call or whatever, little did we expect that the man was going to be on the other end of the phone. Here he was, literally just after, you know, making history, like first Irish driver to, you know, from the south to get a podium. The mad thing about that was a couple of mad things now, the way things have panned out. Paul Nagle actually won the rally that day with Chris Meek, who went on to navigate with him. Scott Martin sitting beside him won Croatia at the weekend alongside Elvin Evans.
It's so intertwined, it's interconnected, it's complex, but it's brilliant at the same time.
Yeah, and that's rallying though, and that's why everyone feels like they know each other kind of inside out. But I suppose the other thing is, it's mad, you know, that even things that are said and this, that and the other, it all becomes very insignificant when something like this happens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know?
True, it does. Like, it, grief for the loss of somebody so special is just beyond words. Like I said, I didn't know the man, but you stand back and look at the bigger picture of, I think, Gavin that I navigate with now. Gavin was telling me that the day of the funeral that there was 500,000 people logged on to watch the funeral online. Like, that's a lot of people. And whatever, like, were physically there at the church and at the wake on the day before, whatever, it was just the numbers of it were just, you know, it just proved how much he was loved and admired, and, you know, it's people took days off work to go and pay their respects. Yeah,
you know, you mentioned Tom Gann, that's an obvious connection there.
Tom and his crew, like, will just suffer a huge loss that possibly words at the minute can't even help. Like a handshake or sorry for your loss. Yeah, it's nice, but it doesn't fix anything. You have to still go through the grief, unfortunately, and there'll be an emptiness there that will never be filled. You know, there was such a connection with Tom, like, and his crew. Like, they're the absolute best of lads. They work really hard, very professional. But like one of the crew said to me the other day, Adam, and I think really highly of Adam, and he just said, unfortunately, he said, life has to go on. But life won't be the same for them without Craig being around.
Absolutely, yeah. Wanting to finish on a light note, I think one of the most entertaining things I've read over the past couple of weeks, which I hadn't realised, was on a couple of occasions the WRC car during competition went through the drive-thru McDonald's for chicken nuggets, which I thought was just absolutely brilliant. Because imagine there, you're working, the next thing this WRC car pulls up 6 nuggets there, please. But yeah, look, again, we passed.
There was one, I don't know the guy, Croak, is it Paddy Croak?
Yeah, whack.
I don't know the guy, I never met him, but somebody had shared a Facebook post of where, I love you, I miss you, but you're just gone ahead to do another recce. And I thought those words were were lovely.
Poignant.
Absolutely smashing.
Really nice indeed.
Yeah.
And again, look, we pass on our deepest sympathies.
Absolutely.
And didn't. It's mad that we're still able to have these conversations. Didn't know him particularly well. Hands up, I didn't know him particularly well, but you just everyone felt that rawness and that numbness associated with it. Another great memory actually there you see it on YouTube is when he walked into Danny Boy. Sorry, just before I finish up, I had to say this. In the Danny Boy in Salou, I think it was 6-7 years ago, and they were chanting his name coming in. He actually ended up on Paddy's shoulders, like Paddy sitting in the wheelchair, and Craig up on top of him. So lots of people have lots of great memories. But again, we pass on our deepest sympathies. So before I come back to your own personal story and a word I suppose on Killarney this weekend, I can't believe I'm firstly standing here or sitting here beside you. You're back competing, and I suppose maybe before I go into Killarney I should ask you, like, your outlook on life now, given the fact that it was so close from being taken from you. What actually goes through your head in the moments when all this is going on? Like, can you talk us through that process?
Well, other than a lot of pain, I would have, I know I carry a bit of weight or whatever, but I would have considered myself fit. Like my last training, so I do a fair bit on my bike. My last training session before the heart attack was 60k in a couple of hours, and I thought I was going well, I was going alright, but I was sitting at home on Friday evening, didn't feel great, and then within half an hour I was on the floor in the sitting room having a heart attack. Pain in the middle of my chest, going down my left arm, and my wife was away with her mother for the weekend. My girls were next door in a friend's house down visiting and playing around, and I just rang a neighbour and the ambulance was called or whatever. But the whole way through, all I kept saying to myself was, because I'd lost both parents to cancer. My dad is dead 26 years, and my mother lost her during COVID. But the only thing that I kept saying to myself was, fight for your girls. I knew I was a physio for 24, 25 years up until COVID, and I was fairly in touch with the kind of the medical and physical end of things. So I had a good idea I was having a heart attack, and I knew the chances, I knew the percentages and the statistics. Right, I said I'm almost 50, carrying a bit of weight, but I was like, the one thing that I kept repeating in my head was, fight for your girls, keep fighting for your girls. I have two girls, Sophia's 11, Isabella's 9, and I don't know, after that, like, it was a series of bad events that evening. There was ambulance called, I won't go into the nitty gritty of it, but the ambulance crew kind of said I wasn't having a heart attack. I knew I was, the level of pain or whatever. So brought to Kilkenny, was transferred to St James in Dublin. The crew up there were absolutely fantastic. I couldn't thank them enough to save my life. But when I was in the middle of getting a stent in, I had a second heart attack, and I was basically gone at that stage. And even still, like, I just find it hard to put words to it. It does get emotional with me now and again, because I just fight for your girls, but they couldn't use the defibrillator on me because the wire was already in my arm, so they had to do manual CPR to bring me back. That was on the Friday night, so they kept me and stabilised me over the weekend. I had another stent fitted on the Tuesday, and then they let me home, I think, on the Thursday. So almost a week in hospital, two heart attacks, two blocked arteries. Now the heart, the chief nurse or the head nurse up there had said to me, the fact that you were fit, she said that you were on your bike, kept you alive. She said your heart was strong as an ox, your arteries were blocked, and that's AF, they call it, arterial fibrillation. One artery was 90% blocked and the other was 80% blocked, and That's what caused the heart attack.
Well, all I can say is wow, and I suppose as a person myself would be quite deep. I would think a lot. How much do you feel, like you said, fight for your girls? Would you have the belief and faith, I suppose, in line with having the mechanics behind you as well, knowing what's going on physically?
Yes.
Do you feel genuinely that gave you the strength to keep you alive?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. Absolutely. Because like I have a wonderful wife as well, Chantel. She's probably the only woman in the country who gives out to her husband for not going out drinking. She was like, she's the absolute best in the world. She was like, my God, would you ring some of the boys and go for a pint or do whatever? But I'd rather be on my bike or in a rally car or just out and about, walking the hills or out doing whatever. Have an odd little drink, but wouldn't be a great pub person or whatever, but kind of save it all and put it all in for the rallies.
So in your period of recovery, how quickly does your outlook on life actually change? Like, I mean, that I suppose gratefulness or whatever way you want to put it, like to actually be here, and what was the difference in how you viewed life then after that happening?
Well, after, it would have been a massive change, absolutely. Now I try to not stress over little things. Like I asked my daughter to clean her bedroom, and the usual kind of pre-teens, I'll do it. So it's like, right, whenever I don't want to get stressed. I don't, do you know what I mean? Before it would have probably ended up as a silly argument or whatever. But now is just enjoy life. Absolutely. Like my dad passed away when he was 52. I was 22 at the time, and he never had a holiday with us. He worked really hard back in the time when work was work, He was a steel erector. He got lung cancer from dealing with asbestos. So that kind of changed outlook as well, but definitely after my own episode is just enjoy life. I won't be around forever. I'm 50 years of age now. I still have a good bit of living left to do. There's plenty more miles rallying to do and cycling. Bit of travelling with the girls, and just absolutely have the crack and enjoy it. And
so more of a realisation of what's important.
Absolutely.
And what isn't important.
The little things are now huge. Like the happiness of my children. Like I'm in regular employment now, like I have a wage every Friday. I've a roof over my head, I have my health. My girls are happy, my wife, happy life. So I just, the little things are now big.
The bizarre thing is, Ken, that like I would say you had a fair decent realisation of what was important even before it happened. So would it be fair to say that it maybe just enhanced what was important?
It would have, It was I knew
a reminder.
Yeah, I knew what was important, but now
because of what had happened to you when you were 22.
Exactly, but I now knew how to act on it.
Okay.
Or, do you know what I mean? It was like, I realised it, but now it was time to.
Because you simply have to.
Simply have to.
Yeah. Otherwise, your health is deteriorating again.
Exactly.
Plain and simple. And does what happened to you create any anxiety when you know? Like, do you have? I don't even like saying it to you because I don't want to make you stressed. But do you have any fear of something like that happening possibly again, or do you live freely now in the knowledge that it has happened? And
no, I tell you, I do. At the minute, no, I don't have any fear, because medically and physically I know that since the heart attack, like I'm getting checked by the doctor very regularly. I've had stress tests, the exercise stress test. I know my heart is fine. I know the stents are working. Yes, I'm on medication for life, blood thinners, blood pressure, cholesterol, that kind of thing. I do have to mind myself, like, because I would bruise because of blood thinners, I bruise easily. So I would kind of, don't be coming down the hill at 100 mile an hour on your bike and fall off because you'll be black and blue for a month. But it's a realisation that enjoy myself, you know.
It's also kind of bizarre one, because if you look at, I suppose, the environment that maybe you grew up in, what you're involved in, like exercise is always very important around athletes. You know, like you've been with top level cyclists, you've been with inter-county GA teams, you know, as a physio, like, and yet something like this could still happen. So there's obviously a message in that somewhere.
There is, yeah. It's like I was 20 plus years looking after top, like, elite athletes, guys who were riding the Tour de France, cyclists like Sam Bennett, who won the green jersey in the Tour de France, looking after him and, you know, making sure he was right. But I suppose it was probably years of looking after other guys and not looking after myself enough. Yeah.
Do you know what's mad? Sorry for cutting across you, but something's just come to me. Playing a hurling match against Burn Rangers, must have been 2016 or 2017. I was playing full back and the keeper went over and done his knee and it was clearly out of place. And he asked me, it wasn't the first time it happened to him incidentally, and he asked me to go straighten it. I said I couldn't even look at it, let alone straighten it. And next thing you rock up, I think you just happened to be there. I don't know where you actually
I was actually with Burn Rangers that evening. I remember. Yeah.
And you popped it back in and he played on and stuff. But man, you've seen some serious stuff down through the years, be it in a rally car or be it, you know. Otherwise.
Like I see my wife there and she looks at my daughters, they look at these ER programs and all this, and I couldn't look at anything like that. But it's mad because I could walk onto a hurling field and a guy could be split open, or his finger broken or his knee dislocated or something, and it just, you know, just kind of came naturally to me. But no, I couldn't look at it.
It's a great thing to be able to do for someone though.
Absolutely, yeah.
You know, and do you miss that at all? Because now you've parted. Like you've parted for a number of different reasons. I don't know if you want to go into it or not, but you did it for nearly a quarter of a century, like.
Yes, I did. I just felt that, like, when I was with the teams, like in France and Italy, like all over Europe, I was with professional teams. I worked for the guy who won the Tour de France, Bradley Wiggins. I worked for his team for a year. I was away from the family a lot and I missed them, and I missed that time, you know, when they were growing up and they wanted their dad around, and I didn't want to be an empty jersey. So I was that was one kind of reason. Another reason would have been that I was getting a bit older. You know, I was kind of mid 40s at the time. I was like, right, do I need to be up at 6 o'clock in the morning making 200 bottles for energy drinks for riders when I could be in the bed at home for another 2 hours before I go to work, kind of a thing.
The other thing I'd like to ask you, Ken, sorry again to cut across you, but when you're in an environment like that for a quarter of a century, people are not coming in with good news. They're coming in because there's something wrong with them. Yeah. Did that ever have an effect on you as a person mentally? Because, you know, I've always said this to the missus, whenever I pass away, I want product of your environment over my headstone. Because I think we are a product of our environments and how we think and the people we're around.
How are your conditions?
And some people say you're the sum of the 3 or 4 or 5 people that are around you most consistently, or you spend the most time with. Did that have much of a effect?
I won't say it had much of an effect on me, but I would have gotten it very regularly, where somebody would come in with an injury. It could have been a farmer, it could have been a council worker, it could have been a school child, and somebody would come in and say, right, I have an injury, I'm after hurting my back, whatever, and they'd start talking to you, and next of all they just burst out crying, because do you know what I mean? It happened so many times that they just released, and they were having personal problems, be it money or whatever, but all, you know, it was all confidential. But I kind of felt, geez, the person is kind of letting down their guard a bit, and you know, it was a release for them. And the amount of people over the years who would like give me a tip or sent me a card with 50 quid in it, thanks very much, I feel better, my back is great, but they actually felt a lot better in themselves, like that they could actually talk to somebody, you know. So it had an effect on me in a positive way, because I knew physically I was fixing an injury, but also I was helping them. Like sometimes you'd end up giving them a little bit of guidance, or like, oh, go and talk to somebody, or you've had fallen out with a friend 2 years before. Well, send them a text and say you missed them, or whatever it be. You know.
Yeah, it's I think it's great, but then there's the side where you also have to release that somewhere yourself, like.
Yes.
You know, and obviously that's where the exercise and stuff kind of come in. I suppose we better talk about rallying a little bit.
Sure, yeah.
But you know, all this stuff is important. I mean, we're all human. This is
exactly. We're all different.
You know, we've Tony Kelly doing a program there at the minute, obviously called The Whole Person, which doesn't really, you know, the aim isn't really to talk about rallying a whole lot.
Yeah.
But the idea is obviously to get to know these guys behind the helmets, and guys and girls behind the helmets, like, and everyone has their own story as well, and yours just happens to be a remarkable one, because despite all this that we've just spoken about, we touched on it at the top of the program here, you're back competing.
Yes.
So firstly, like, how much thought and consideration did you give into going back competing, and how long was it after, I suppose, the heart attack that you did go back and compete?
Like, I did put a lot of thought into it, but I sat down and had a chat with my wife, and I just said, like, listen, what do you think? And she was like, well, she said, it's the only thing in life other than cycling that you actually love. Like she said, you like going fishing, you like your gardening, like, I love spending time with the girls, bringing them off here and there, whatever, but I wouldn't be good at many things, but not to sound too much like an ass, but I've been navigating now for I was talking to Dermot and Mark today, and it was 1997 was my first rally.
Who was that way?
With Mick Reddy.
Okay, yeah.
It was a fairly standard Mark II escort, fantastic memories. That was my first ever event, and I've done a lot of events since that. But it's just the one thing that I love, that I want to be my best at. Now, I mightn't be up to the likes of Josh Moffat or Keith Moriarty or any of the top lads, but I'd like to be, whoever I'm sitting with, I like to give them my best.
They never won the Mark II Challenge.
Pardon?
They never won the Mark II Challenge, I don't think.
No, no.
That I'm aware of anyway.
I know, but I don't.
You won that in 09 and 10, back to back, with Simon Major.
Correct, yeah.
Special time?
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. There would be a couple of events over the years that would stand out. Like the first one ever was 97 with Mick. It was a single stage in Old Castle in County Meath, and it was actually Dermot.
Serious rally in Stronghold, Rory Galligan territory.
Yeah.
Andrew Brown territory. A few more guys up there who, I won't start naming them all.
But my first overall win, I won a single stage overall with Mick in Carrigan-Shore in 2003, which is 20 years this year. And I actually remember well, James Coleman, Shore Forklifts, presented it with the trophies that evening. That was fabulous, like, you know. Probably didn't sink in for a while because it was only a chap, but, say a chap, I was 30 at the time, but
in comparison to now, you're a chap.
In comparison to now, I'm a middle-aged, bald, overweight man with a heart problem. But no, back then it was, we were working men trying to scramble a few bob together to buy tyres and petrol and entry fees, the usual thing. But
and that hasn't changed.
That hasn't changed. Yeah.
This is the reality.
Still, myself and Gavin at the minute. We're trying to put money together and entry fees and tyres and, someone to run the car. It's all money, and it's not easy to, yourself, mortgage and kids and all that kind of thing. So life does tend to be prioritised a bit, like,
The cynic in me says, right, you love rallying, you just had a heart attack. Well, we'll just do the most adrenaline rushing thing you'll ever get in the world. We'll do rallying. There was no chess, there's no drafts, there's no, like, I'll play cards. No, I'm going to go rallying.
But to me, I'm calm in the car. Like, yes, I do get nervous. Always get nervous before an event. And there's some mornings that I just I can't even talk to people. It's not rudeness or anything like that. It's just I would be nervous, and I kind of retreat into a world of my own, away from people.
Is it nervous of just wanting to do a good job? Nervous of?
Yes, I would probably be putting too much pressure on myself.
Yeah.
Because I know that if we were trying to go out and win the class or whatever, it's maximum concentration. I want to do everything. If I do something wrong, I'd be very hard on myself. Because I want to do it to the best of my ability. But yeah, I'll probably put too much pressure on myself that way. But in the car, I tend to be, or try to be, as calm as possible. So I don't get wound up and shouting and roaring kind of a thing. But no, it's probably when I'm at my calmest is when I'm in the car.
When you have the flow, yeah. I've said this to someone recently. We're never nervous about something going right. It's always about something going wrong, or wanting it to go right.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, imagine if you could be in that mindset where, it's the opposite. And some people probably just don't do nerves. Well, I think they're a good thing. We've often used the analogy on the podcast.
Nerves are a good thing, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sure, they help keep you sharp,
Yeah. I'd never go into an event feeling cocky, never. Even still, because, I remember I hadn't navigated in a while, and in Galway 2019, was it, or 2020? Just before the lockdown, it was the last rally before the lockdown.
20.
I sat with Eugene Donnelly in an R5 in Galway, and I hadn't sat in anything that quick. Now I was nervous, all right, yeah, because it was like, right, this is who it is. He demands perfection, and the speed, and it was like, right, I've never caught notes this quick before, or whatever. So yeah, I got through it. We didn't finish the rally through mechanical issues, but I knew then that, from making notes to calling back the notes and whatever, that I did all right.
Yeah.
I did all right, and I was happy. I went home happy with my performance, knowing that I was confident that if I ever did, and I would love to this year at some stage, do an event with somebody in an R5, just simply because, number one, I'm alive, and number two, just to celebrate my 50th. Just somebody that was stuck, absolutely, I would love to jump in.
There you go now, lads. You're in the right place, you have the right platform, Ken, so get this man a spin in an R5. How did the spin with Eugene come about?
There was a guy in Carlow, Darren Hayes, had opened up a garage, and he had just put out a few local feelers who was navigating in around the area, and he rang me and asked me would I, so can just...
Through Darren Hayes, yeah. Because Darren, I think Eugene go back, don't they?
As far as I know, yeah, himself and Eugene. And
it's pretty cool though. I mean, whenever something like that comes about, you're talking about a five-time tournament champion, ringing you, and I mean, that's obviously going to be nerve-wracking, but also very, I suppose, I'm not going to say reassuring, but definitely something that boosts your confidence, that someone of that calibre thought you were good enough.
Yes, absolutely. No, I really did. I took a lot from that now. I was under pressure, and I kind of, I stood up to the challenge, and I think I got through it fairly okay. Not without trying to sound too much like...
Nice thing to be able to say though as well, that actually happened.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I mean, it's not the only, we'll say, for want of a better phrase, putting it, not the only heavy hitter that we've sat with down through the years. There's been a few, in fairness. I don't mean heavy hitter now in terms of hitting the bail or hitting the wall or anything like that, but you were lucky enough to sit with Enda Allen, the late great Enda Allen. I was, yeah. Blessed to sit with him. I remember, I was only thinking the other night, I think it was 1991, and I was actually working in England at the time, and I came home because my dad died in 96, and it was 1991, and I came home from England for the weekend. Carlow had a forestry back on then, and they called it the Monte Carlo Forestry, and myself and my dad and Enda
myself and my dad and Enda knew each other very, very well for a long time. And I went along for the spin. We were just basically going around the stages the day before, cleaning off trees and pulling rocks out of the way, things like that. And Enda says to me, oh sure, I'll give you a few bob for that, or come on, or I'll buy you a bag of chips, whatever it was. And I said, no, all I want is a spin in your rally car. And he said, it mightn't be today or tomorrow, but he said, I'll give you a spin at some stage. And then it was 2006, he rang me, because where I had my clinic in Carlow was right beside his constituency office with MJ, his brother. And he called in one day and he says, listen, I want to do Wexford was the first one, Wexford 06. I said, I want to do Wexford. Will you jump in with me? He says, I never forgot what you said to me years ago. So I was absolutely delighted.
So he remembered that?
He remembered that, yeah.
15 years later?
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's rallying, which I love, like one of the reasons I love it is so interconnected and so complex. My uncle Liam Clark was Enda's, as far as I know, was Enda's first navigator ever.
I think he's on record as that as well, yeah.
And my uncle Liam, which would be on my mother's side, their first rally car was an Avenger. Mm-hmm. And that Avenger was my father's old family car.
Right.
And Liam was Enda's first navigator, and unfortunately I was Enda's last navigator. So we kind of kept it within the family. Plus,
yeah, there's more to this.
There is more to this. Yeah. Do you know where I'm going?
I do.
Gavin, a good friend that I sit with now.
Gavin Shield, yeah.
Gavin Shield is Enda's nephew.
Yeah. And
there wouldn't be too many people now would know that.
And Paul sat with Enda, Gavin's father, I think.
He did.
1 or 2 times,
yes,
yeah. Maybe a bit more than 1 or 2 times, but I know for definite I seen that on record. That's a good bit before my time now, but again, it's back to that rally community and how small it is and how it comes.
It is, like I remember, like when I was navigating Dermot O'Toole, say in the early 2000s, and there was a fantastic crew of people. Like we used to, Dermot's dad, Jerry, we all used to service using his truck. There would have been Eamon and Sarah Dowling, an absolute magical couple of people, husband and wife. Mick and Della McAvoy, absolute fucking gems, so they are. And there would have been Eugene and Mary Fitzpatrick, another husband and wife. John Nolan from Tullow. And who else was myself and Dermot? There was another few people around as well that were all servicing, but the people would go out of their way for you, even if it was a 10mm spanner or a diff or a half shaft or something like that. If there was anybody had hassle, well, there was 5 or 6 people around the car straight away. They were the best of times, the best of memories. And myself and Eamon, I work with Eamon now, and we'd be going back old stories, and he said, do you remember this happened, or do you remember that happened? And just wonderful times with wonderful people. Absolutely. Those times will never come back. It was simple times, but the crack and the slagging and the messing was just, at times it was disgraceful, raw, and at times it was just, you'd just lie down and laugh at them. They were brilliant times, brilliant people.
You've actually answered the question that I was wanting to ask about how you come to love the sport and how you got involved. Sure, it's pretty self-explanatory there now, like.
Yeah, you know. My dad, Lord of mercy on him, yeah. He was always around it. I always used to go with my dad to the Carlow rally every year, and I couldn't wait for weeks. I'd be counting the days, because myself and my dad would be doing the control in, and you'd be meeting all the drivers and whatever, and I didn't actually get to see rallying, a live stage, but we're there doing times and helping out and whatever. And I just always said to myself, remember there was a single stage out the back of Ardatton one day, and I think it was actually run from Ballykeely. I was only a chap at the time, but I remember sitting, Bill Conley had a green Manta, and I remember sitting in the passenger seat, the navigator seat, talking to somebody and said, someday I would love to be in a seat like this. And he says, like, why don't you, whatever. So I I don't know, could be 35 years ago. It was only a chat, but dreams do come true. Dreams do come true.
The other thing we actually should have mentioned was that, didn't you in Class 1 in the National Championship last year?
Yeah, myself and Gavin, yeah, we had a great year.
Despite literally getting a heart attack.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of, there was one, we had, what do you call it? We had one round left in Donegal, and no, we didn't have it won or anything. We weren't, we still had to go and compete. But it was 16th of September I had the heart attack, and it was October, I think it was the 8th of October, something like that, and the last round in Donegal. And I just asked the nurse, I said, listen, I've one more race to do, and that's my season over. I said, could you give me the go ahead, or what do you think, whatever. And she just said, as long as you're not lifting engines, gearbox, just go and live your normal life. She said your heart is fine and your what do you call it, your stents are working. So she said, don't get too stressed about it. She says, go and enjoy your life. So I did, and unfortunately that was the weekend that didn't happen. That was Creasla. That god awful tragedy up there as well. So yeah, we were up there. We had done the recce. We had come back. Tom and the lads had put the car through scrutiny, and then I think we're sitting in James Coleman's camper, and we just unfortunately got the word that rally was cancelled or postponed or whatever at the time. But because of what happened, so maybe it was a blessing in disguise that I didn't do it. But like, that was 3 weeks after the heart attack. But I felt strong enough to do it, but I was still shook enough after a big trauma like that. All right.
It's a real roller coaster, in fairness, isn't it, rallying?
It is. Like, I've seen, like, I sat with a guy in Burr last year, and it was his first event ever, Keith Costello, and I'd said to Keith, like, Keith, we won the class that day, and I just said the highs are high. Like, you win the class today, you have your crystal, you came home, the car is still in one piece, you were progressing with your times all day, but I said, a time will happen or an incident will happen that you might crash out, or you might have a mechanical, or something will happen. Like, the highs are high, but the lows are very low. We've seen both ends of it over the years, but yeah, it's like something simple can put you out, and you just ride your luck then, and when you go win a class or get up in the overall or whatever, it's it could go either way very quickly.
But you're quite content for now anyway. You're going to keep going.
Absolutely.
And that's your prerogative.
Yeah,
keep
absolutely. Like myself and Gavin, like, we're always looking for a bit of sponsorship, help us through the season. It's never getting any cheaper. Tyres and petrol and entry fees, hotels, it all mounts up. Just lucky that I have a good support system behind me. Like,
that's the other thing I never came to, was actual Killarney this weekend. Yeah, which obviously yourself and Gavin are doing. So, how do you feel ahead of it, and what kind of perception do you have of Killarney? And I suppose when you see the lineup of stages this weekend, you have Healy Pass, Argroom, Cod's Head, Pollop Beamer, Mull's Gap, obviously. Gorton again. All the big hitters are there. All the big ones are there. I'm looking forward to the challenge. We did it last year, and we finished, I don't think 68 or 69 overall, which isn't bad for a Class 5 car, or it's an RC5 now this year, but last year we were at Class 22, kind of we're in with Civics and Evos and things like that, because I think it's a licensing issue, or if you don't have an international license or whatever, you're in Class 20, I think. But this weekend, I told Gavin, and the two of us have a laugh about it. The only stage I've done rallies all over the country. I've never done Donegal, but my one big one would be the Killarney Historics. I have to do that. Have to do that with somebody. But this weekend, all the big ones, like you're saying, the Mull's Gaps and all. I think Mull's Gap is the first stage on the Saturday morning, and twice then Sunday.
And twice on Sunday. But the only stage that I've ever done that I absolutely cringe is Ballochbeema.
Really?
I fucking hate it so much.
Why is that now?
I don't know. I don't know. Just when you're actually going up the hill out through the gap, up at the top, I think there was a couple of young lads went off there last year in a Civic. Unfortunately, out through there.
That could have been a lot worse too. They were lucky there, weren't
Absolutely,
they?
absolutely. But that's then down to like good scrutiny here and strong cars and well-built cars and that. But that's another issue, like that safety and things. But it's the only Gavin laughs at me. It's the only stage in the country I absolutely fucking detest. I won't lie to you. I said to Gavin, I'm just going to. I said when we're on Ballochbeema, I said you're on your own. I'm plugging out the intercom, but I'll do all the rest of them. But no, I'm really looking forward to it. It's like a little holiday to me with friends. Look forward to it. Finish work Wednesday evening. We're tipping on Wednesday evening. Up fresh then Thursday morning. Recce Thursday, Recce Friday. Race Saturday and Sunday. I'm looking forward to it. And Gavin is... I like sitting with Gavin. There's no stress. There's no drama. You know, it's nice and relaxed. It's the way I want it. He's a mature chap for a young fella. Good driver, learning all the time, and the two of us get on well. But if he takes out his vape this Thursday, I'm going to fucking kill him. Him and his blueberry and red lemonade flavoured vapes.
Apart from that stuff, he was there to say. But it's funny, last little thing I'll say, you know, Gav was on an underage county hurling panel with me, and Tom Nolan was as well.
Right.
And here we are now chatting.
Absolutely.
It's gas. Small world. Ken, I think it's a remarkable story.
Just like, say again, just send on condolences to the Breen family and all the friends and relations and anybody that knew Craig. Like I said, there's an emptiness there that will never be filled. There's a black cloud over Irish motorsport now for a long time. It'll be motorsport in Ireland now will be dragging its backside for a long time. But it'll come good again. I'm looking forward to this weekend, and it's a nice tribute now that there's no number 42. Yeah, it'll be hard meeting the lads again. Like I said, the lads who knew him and kind of feel awkward at times. Like say, I don't want to bring it up with them, but just to let them know that we're thinking about their grief as well.
Absolutely.
You know,
pass on those sentiments, Ken.
Absolutely, and the best of luck to everyone this weekend, and you know, really looking forward to it. It's always a fantastic event. It's the attention and the attraction of supporters and spectators that it gets is huge, and the best stages in the country.
Well, listen, the last thing I want to do is say thank you for, number one, asking me down here, and number two, for being so open and candid with your story. It's a remarkable one, and all I can say is fair play to you.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Absolute pleasure, and like I said, thank you very much. I feel honoured. I'm on a kind of a list of big hitters up there. Not that I'm a big hitter or anything, but you've had some mighty guys on it, and you do a great job. And well done, and keep it going. Thank you very much.
Thanks a million, Ken.